Anticipation. That's what.
Anticipation.
And with that Rocky Horror Picture Show reference, we are going to dive right into this episode of the Black Tower podcast, which is not, as you would be respectfully, understandably incorrect to ascertain, not a Rocky Horror Picture Show podcast, but a Wheel of Time podcast hosted by your three illustrious Mahales. I am your Amin Khan Mahale, Daniel.
I'm that there Bajan Mahale, Andrew.
And you probably don't know me. Who am I kidding? I'm Josh. I'll be serving as your Sorban Mahale for tonight's festivities.
And tonight, you're going to want to go ahead and keep your hands and arms firmly inside the ride at all times as we go ahead and talk a little bit about life, the universe, and everything with a special guest. But before we get to that special guest and who they are and what they do and why they're here and why the vast majority of you probably already know them better than you know us, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of things. First and foremost, if you are here for the first time, if you have never listened to a Black Tower podcast episode and you just stumbled on us from somewhere or had a friend recommend us to you or whatever the case may be, make sure you pop on over to blacktowerpod.com. It has all of the information that you're going to need about who we are, what we do, and how you can get involved if you like what you hear. It's going to have all of our links and all of our merch and everything on there. It's a great place to go and check everything out. And if you are listening to this either live or when it goes public for the very first time, or right at the very beginning, I don't think it's going to go public multiple times, but right at the very beginning when it goes public, you will still have an opportunity to come to our event that we have every October as a annual birthday party for the podcast, as well as an excuse for the three of us to get together and drink too much and have too much fun. And that is the Gathering Madness. This year, it is going to be the weekend of the 15th and 16th of October in Los Angeles, California, more specifically in Roland Heights. So if you are anywhere in or around the area, come check us out. Come say hi. We actually have an Airbnb rented for the entire weekend so that we can go ahead and have a good time with everybody, and we don't have to worry about space being at my tiny little apartment or anything like that. So come on down. There is absolutely space for you. And if you cannot come in person, no sweat. We totally understand, and we will absolutely hold nothing against you, because why would we? Unless you want it done. If you're into that, then enthusiastic consent is very important. But if you want it held against you, we will, and you're a very, very bad boy or girl, depending. But
also, I'd like to just throw out a real quick note.
Or anything else. You could be very bad
or
non-binary.
Yes,
Right.
We're just covering the whole spectrum.
Just pick a bad and let us know.
The Airbnb, we do have an Airbnb. It is available for daytime congregational use.
Yes,
that
is important.
You will need to find a hotel in the area, which shouldn't be too difficult. But I need to specify that. Also,
100%.
Also, as
we are
as
getting an Airbnb for the purposes of space, not necessarily for the purposes of housing.
And once again, at the Watt Tales Wheel of Time cocktail party portion of the evening, I want to be very, very clear on this. The Black Tower does not condone drinking and driving. In fact,
correct.
We downright forbid it. Please come to the Airbnb prepared to find yourself a sober transportation away from the Airbnb, because as I said, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here because of the specifics on the contract with the Airbnb, and you're not driving. I will take your keys. You can get them in the morning.
And again, along with that, I do want to say to everyone, the vast majority of the things that we're doing are going to be audience participation available. So if you would actually like to sample the submitted Watt cocktails with us, go ahead. That's awesome. We'll go ahead and make you some, but it does predicate you will be going home. Make sure that you can participate responsibly. So there you go. Also, this year we are going to have, as Josh already mentioned, some favorite activities back again from last year, including the Watt Cocktail Contest, the Drunk Splaining Wheel of Time. We will have the Taste the Taint Challenge. We will have a number of live streams and panels and things that we are having guests and such on. And then this year, we have actually decided to change things up just a little bit. And whereas normally we would be going out and doing an activity, we are actually going to be having a game show for our activity this time, set up by yours truly, that Andrew and Josh are going to be the heads of 2 teams for. That is going to all be based on the Wheel of Time. So,
I'm sorry in advance.
So definitely
we've all
come
seen me
down.
on game shows. It's a hit or miss.
So come down, have a lot of fun with us. We're gonna have a lot of fun with anybody who comes and joins us. So there you go. And without further ado, that is all of our sort of wonderful stuff out of the way. We definitely wanted to say it earlier rather than later, so that anybody who needed an extra 75 minutes to go ahead and prepare to come to the Gathering Madness had it. But this episode is not about the Gathering Madness. This episode is not even really completely about the Wheel of Time. I'm sure it's gonna come up because the guest that we have has been somewhat entrenched in the world of the Wheel of Time for many years.
He's been around for a bit.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I don't know if he's a real fan. I'm sorry, that was my impression of a internet gatekeeper.
Yes, indeed.
Don't cancel me, please.
But we would like to sort of reintroduce, I'm sure, to the vast majority of you, our lovely guest, and thank him very much for being here, the always unique and always welcome Jason Denzel. Originally, we know him from dragonmount.com, and he is also a wonderful author who has brought us 4 books in a single series that we will mostly be talking about tonight, which is the Mystic series. They include Mystic, Mystic Dragon, the Nameless Saint, and Mystic Skies. Not in that order. It's actually Mystic Dragon, Mystic Skies, and then Nameless Saint is a prequel. So that's mostly what we're going to be talking about tonight. But before we go any further, Jason, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and say hello to your adoring fans.
You are my adoring fans, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. I love being on your show. I knew that when I was shamelessly putting together, a list of places that I wanted to go to kind of promote this upcoming book and everything. You guys were right there, at the top of the list, and I'm so glad to be back. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
What year are we celebrating with the Gathering Madness? I confess I'm horrible that I'm even one of your patrons, whereas I didn't know this, that the event was next month, and I need to check to see. That's the weekend after my book comes out, and so I need to make it out there if I can. But so I'm up here in Northern California, and you guys are down in Southern California, so this might be a thing. No promises, but I'll see what it is. But what year how many years has it been now? What are we at?
So this is technically the end of year 4, the end of season 3.
Yes.
Because we decided to go ahead and make the first 2 years one season. But yes, so it will be the end of year 4, beginning year 5.
Wow.
Yeah, so our first annual Gathering Madness was a bit of kismet.
Yes.
I was in LA for the town, for a bit, and Daniel was living down there. And we decided, let's meet up and hang out for a bit. And Andrew was like, maybe I should fly in. And so we decided, since we were there, we got.
I don't need to pay this bill. I can afford a flight to LA. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. And so if you want to go see if you want to see how far we've come,
let's see
how much progress we still have to make. Go look at our first Gathering Madness video on YouTube.
And if you want to see what we look like babies, that video will definitely help show you, because all of us, I think all of us are actually clean shaven. Not
Josh
fully.
is not.
I think
Josh
is okay. Yeah.
I had just gone down my bearded journey.
But this was clean shaven Daniel and very, very noticeably red hair. Daniel.
So this is when you were just physically capable of growing your first beard, that long ago, right? So
yes.
Just growing out first beard for the first time.
So Jason,
that was actually just before I got out of the military.
Yeah, it was. I just want to throw out there that you don't understand how accurate the statement that you just made is, and how much it hurts me on the. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was very early on in the podcast, and not that early on. I guess it was a year in, but
it was the first anniversary of.
It was earlier for y'all than it was for me, as much as it pains me to say that.
And we had. Daniel and I had been on the show for a few months at that point in time. And
I think I joined in June.
Yeah,
and Josh joined in July.
1 or 2 episodes.
And so we were 4 or 5 months into it, and it was an adventure.
So
it was awesome.
I just recently found an old VHS. Let me back up. I found the VHS tape, but so it was. Oh man, this is gonna sound. So we drag him out. We're recording this right now in late September, and so earlier, a couple weeks ago, was the 24th anniversary of Dragon Mount opening, and
nice.
So
applause. Which congratulations, guys.
Yes,
that is very to cut you off there, but that's impressive. That's so amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's. I mean, the only reason I've been so blessed to have. I mean, you guys already see what teamwork does, and what the testament that the three of you working together with your Patreons and everyone else to kind of make the thing happen. It's the same with Dragon Mount. That it's not just. It can't just be me. It's never just been me. I've always had such an amazing staff of people, and too many people to name. But the reason the site goes on today is because of all their efforts and everything. But so I recently found a VHS tape in an old box, and it's labeled Dragon Mount interview with this local TV station that I did back in 1998. So the site had just opened. It was 1998, and a local news. I think what it was is that I was taking a Linux class. I was in college. I was taking a class on Linux, and I think my Linux teacher, heard that I was working on a website, and I said I was trying to figure things out or whatever. And they knew someone, and then so they actually reached out to someone that they knew at the local news, or maybe it was a classmate, I forget. But anyway, the local news heard about that I'd started a website. And in 1998, starting a website was a much bigger deal.
Right? No, for real.
It is today, right? It's kind of silly how it was, but back then it's oh wow, they got a website, and
an actual website. Most people had a GeoCities.
GeoCities, exactly, right? And it was on GeoCities. So anyway, the local news showed up. I'm not even kidding. With a lighting set, a producer, and a camera person showed up, and they sat me down. They interviewed me, what's it like to run an online community, and what's this all about? And at the time, one of the big phenomenons that was going on, and for those of you that were around back then would know this, is that online relationships were a big deal and pretty taboo at the time, because who would actually get into a relationship with a stranger on the internet, And so so Dragon Mount being an online community, I got hit right away with questions about what about the online predators and people pretending who they aren't? What about the relationships? Are they real relationships and things like that? So I don't remember the exact contents of it, but I recorded it, and I got because it was on the local channel news, that evening news for that whatever that town I was in. And I have a recording of it. I haven't watched it yet, but I went out and I bought at a thrift store a used VHS player that works. I got it all set up, but I can't rewind because I don't have the remote for it. So now I got to order like a generic remote to work with my generic VHS player so I can watch this tape, which is not rewound. So once I have it, and I've got to think to digitize it, once I have it, I'm going to put that out there. And what made me think of this is talking about all your baby faces. And oh my gosh, I was 20, I think I was 19 or 20 at the time. So fresh faced Jason, young and eager and optimistic, about running a Wheel of Time fan site in 1998. And so I can't wait to get those screen grabs in that video clip and put it up on YouTube and everything.
Oh yeah,
that's a fancy VHS player.
Right.
Growing up, mine didn't even have the remote. I was the remote. All right.
You were the remote.
Right?
Yeah.
Get up and change the channel.
This VHS player,
rewind the first Titanic VHS and put in the second one. Go do it now, fast. Hurry up.
That the player that I got, it's got a play and a fast forward, but it doesn't have a rewind button. It's just so random.
What?
It has fast forward.
Maybe that's an older one.
It was
whenever
designed
they
by
wanted
someone,
you to buy the separate rewinder.
It is designed by someone who is not kind.
Right. I get where you're going. I see what you're doing. All right.
I don't get it.
Yeah, all right,
I hate you so much.
Do you know, and I think I said this last time too, but when Dragon Mount was one of the first like Wheel of Time fan base places I found. And actually, I think I found it through, no, it wasn't. It was Dragon Mount was first. Okay. And it was through Dragon Mount that I found out about Brandon Sanderson. Like years later, because it was like Dragon Mount was like, I am not great with forums, as evidenced by the fact that our website has nobody maintaining the forums because I'm garbage with it. But I tried.
Just because that's accurate doesn't mean you need to say it out loud.
The spam bots the enemies at the gates. The spam bots are there.
Right? The online predators. But
the enemy is at the gates. I hear the drums in the deep.
It was Dragon Mount for me. It was 2002, 2001, 2002, 2003 maybe. And from then on, it was one of those like, oh, I'll check and see if the new book is out. I'll check and see if the new book is out. I'll go to Dragon Mount. I'll check and see if the new book is out. And it had been a couple years, and I was like, oh, I'll check and see if the new book is out. And I kid you not, I pull up dragonmount.com, and there's a beautifully written article, by the way, about attending Robert Jordan's funeral. And I was like, wait,
what?
What?
Yeah.
I was absolutely, I was living in California at the time. I was absolutely just, what happened? Like I was, but it had been long enough that Brandon Sanderson had already picked up the series. And so I was like looking up, Googling the Wheel of Time. Will the Wheel of Time be finished? And Yahooing at the time. And then of course I found Brandon Sanderson's blog post where he was talking about, this is my, I'm very honored to be taking on this project. La 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 la. And but yeah, Dragon Mount was like my first dipping my toes into the Wheel of Time online fan.
It was actually
interactions.
It was actually really funny with all of this sort of nostalgia talk. It was not too awful long ago, like within the last year, that Facebook gave Josh a post that he made that was like, does anyone know anything about this Brandon Sanderson guy who's taking over Wheel of Time?
That's right. That's
and it
right.
was like 7 years ago today, or like
no, it was like
10
it was
ago
like,
today, or whatever it was.
They
do like weird numbers because they don't just do like 5 and 10. Yeah, it's like a weird, number of years that they like go back and shove things onto your feed and go, remember when you did this? And you're like, shut up. I definitely don't want to remember some things that I did 13 years ago. Get out of here.
Yeah, I've turned off those memory notifications. I intentionally go to the memories if I want to look at them.
That's what I
do. Yeah, that I've heard that a lot over the years, and because Dragonmon's been around for so long, and
Oh, yeah.
we predated social media, of course, and so that being the case, it was that was the thing that people would Google it and it would come up on our site. This is also, it would predate Tor.com, which nowadays has they've got the inside scoop on themselves for all the book related stuff. Not that there's any other Wheel of Time related books coming out, except for the Origins book that's coming out soon. We can talk about that in a bit later. But more, this is before Tor.com, this is before social media. So, for a long time, we kind of were the primary source of news for a lot of things that were Wheel of Time related. Robert Jordan had his blog on our website, which is great. And it's changed, of course, now. Things get Amazon or Prime Video doesn't come to us to announce stuff on our website. Like the publisher used to come to us to announce things via us, or Robert Jordan will come to us to announce things, and that's okay. That's our role in the fandom has shifted, and that's perfectly okay. We're still who we are, and we do a little bit of everything. We do, of course, the news, we do some YouTube, we do some podcasting, we do social media, we do a little bit of everything, and really kind of a deep dive into none of it anymore. We do forums, but not as deeply as we used to, and everything else. We kind of scaled that back a little bit because fewer people use forums these days. People use, it's all about social media and TikToks and things like that. So,
which, by the way, Kitty does an amazing job with your guys' TikToks. I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
Can I also? I'm actually very curious now that you brought that up. How many TikToks have you made for the release of your new book?
I've made exactly 0. I have a TikTok account.
Why are we even here? There are no TikTok videos for me to go watch. I'm done. I'm out.
I have a TikTok account. I think I've got 3 videos up, one of which, is like my dog. And, so I've dipped my toes in. It's like, man, I'm still catching up, just trying to figure out how to use Instagram. Maybe I know I'm old and
just skip Instagram. It's dying with Facebook, so just skip Instagram. Go straight to TikTok.
Daniel, you can't say that. It's only been 2 weeks since we were on Instagram with Tom.
Right.
For Dragonmount. Stop. Abort mission.
No, and
Tom would respect my honesty, Andrew.
Tom and Kitty and Rebecca, the rest of the team, and Kathy, the group that does a lot of the social media stuff. They're fantastic. Katie too. They do a lot of Dragonmon social media. I certainly contribute and chime in and everything. I'm trying to scale back a little bit of the day-to-day Dragonmon stuff, so they give me more room to do book writing and stuff, because I'd like to do that
Wait, you write
more.
Books?
I know, right? Sometimes I wonder, and it's been a while in between each of my books, and and I'd like to do. I've got a full-time job and everything, and so there's Dragonmount, there's my day job, there's life and everything else. So I'm trying to do a little bit less of other things so I can focus in on writing more often. But you're right.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that you're quiet quitting on all of the things that you're, because that's what I'm hearing you say, that you want a work-life balance? How dare you in today's day and age?
How dare I? That's it. I do. I'm writing a lot more these days, and I feel like I'm firing in all cylinders. I've told people, like, this has definitely been the best place that I've been in a lot of years since I've started the Mystic books, where I've got the most time, because I've got everything else handled. I'm in a good place with all the other things in my life, and so I'm able to get a lot more done. I'm making great progress in my current work in progress. Outside of the now that I'm done with the Mystic books, I'm on to a new project. I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm really pouring through it. So it's a good place to have, and it's also good to know that that, like, I can't and I don't want to let go of all the things we do at Dragonmount. It's but that's, again, I was talking about with all the people that help out. Like, if it were just me, Dragonmount would be a full-time job, and but dividing it up amongst team members and everything else, it makes it far more bearable and fun for everyone too. Because we all get fun. There's all sorts of perks that come with it and everything else.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know what they say. It's basically the same as raising a child and raising a website. It takes a village. Just, you know.
I don't know if I've heard
for-
that saying, but I can't say I disagree.
So
Since we're talking
here's-
about Dragon Mount,
go.
so I don't think did we talk about this last time? I don't remember because I'm so bad with timelines now.
You're gonna have to ask the question before I can tell you.
Yeah,
yes
I
or no?
am aware of how conversations
Okay.
work, Daniel. Thank you very much. So
I love
you
you.
were invited by Amazon for the Wheel of Time TV show premiere. And I
Yes.
don't remember if we talked about that when we had you on last time or if that was before the
don't
premiere.
think
even happened.
so.
I think it was
Yeah, I think
before
I
the
think it was
premiere.
before. Yeah, it was definitely before.
Yeah.
So
So
What
I
was
know
your
you've been asked
experience
about it 1,001 times. How was it? What was the cool thing? Did you get any cool gadgets? You know, how many times did you get to shake everybody's hands? But you know, how was that for you?
Yeah, give us a rundown of that.
yeah, I'll give you a rundown. So actually, there were actually two trips. The first one was a more hush hush. I couldn't talk about it, and I was dying to. But before the premiere, a couple weeks before the premiere, actually, it was almost exactly a year ago. This year, exactly a year ago. It was right around this time. It was early in the fall. Prime Video flew me down to Los Angeles for a private screening of the first episode, and it was just a small little thing in a small little theater in LA. And Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, was there, and AK, his the right-hand person, the second showrunner, backup, not backup, but second right-hand person,
showrunner,
assistant, yeah, exactly, was there. And Una Brieswitz, who was the director of the first two episodes, she was there. And so I got to meet them and see the first episode and chat with. There was a small group of, I don't know, there's probably 20 people in the theater total, other media outlets, and just to kind of get a first sneak preview. And going down there, at the last minute, they said, I asked if I could bring, a +1, just if I could just bring somebody else from my team. And said, no. And then I'm at the airport flying down, and they called me and said, actually, if you know anyone who's local in the LA area, you can invite them in. And I'm sorry, guys. You were like second on the list, but Kitty Rello from my team
we totally
down
did.
there. And so I
obviously.
called Kitty up and I'm like,
Yeah.
want to go see Wheel of Time tonight? She's like, are you kidding? So Kitty and I got to go see the first episode. And I think, so as far as I know, we were the first fans outside of, the production team to see this, and probably the first showing of any kind to the public, outside of Prime Video's
Production
right?
staff,
yeah, exactly, as far as I know. And so right as Kitty and I walked in, and Uda Brieswitz, who is again the director of the first two episodes, points at us and says, I know you're Team Dragamount. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like what? And she's like, we love that video that you made of, it was, the trailer reaction. We made a video of various people, maybe some of you guys were on, I can't remember, but we made a video of people submitted to us. They recorded themselves watching the first initial trailer for the show. They watched it for the first time and they recorded themselves as they were watching it. And they sent us this video. We got tons of these things. And so we put it a video compilation of all these people, gasping and oohing and awing and crying and whatever, their reactions as we saw it. And and so Una was like, we love that. And one of the best things that before we even seen this thing, she's like, we just want you to know that like everything that you and the rest of the fans do, and it wasn't just Dragon Ball, she's talking about everyone, which would include you guys, everything that the fans do, we absolutely see it. We can't always, we can't reach out, we can't always engage. There's so many moving parts here or whatever, but we see you, we love it, we value it, and all of you have like this, the fans in general have an outstanding positive reputation with the cast and crew, and everyone knows it and feels a sense of, pride and ownership and knowing that we have this fandom, that they have this fandom that they're trying to, deliver for, right?
We gotta fix that reputation real quick. We gotta fix that, guys. We need to be like the black sheep bastard children.
We should be more like the Star Wars people. I can't even say that as a joke.
Yeah, it's no secret that there's a certain subset of quote unquote fans, so who can handle that portion of being disliked for us. So
Okay, we
nothing
don't
wrong
want to be
with
like that kind of disliked, but these guys are rambunctious, but not assholes disliked.
well, I'll put it in next time I see anyone, I'll put in a good word. So
Thank you.
At that screening, Kina and I are watching it, and
We just want Uno. Please, Guy, just give us Uno, please.
well, he'll be in season 2. We'll see.
Indeed.
We'll
That's
see
what
how
they
far
say,
he
yeah.
makes it, or whatever, or how much we're going to get of him. But yeah, so
Yeah.
at this screening in LA, Rafe and Uda and AK were sitting behind us by a couple rows, and and I could feel like their eyes in the back of my head, like, what are their reactions going to be, And because I think that we were the only, I mean, they're not to take anything away from anyone else there, there were some big fans there, but I think we were the only dedicated Wheel of Time fan group there that,
Yes.
there were a lot of diehard fans who worked for other outlets, Nerdist and things like that,
Yeah.
So I could feel like Uda and Rafe's eyes in the back of my head. And at one point, I got to remember what the exact moment was, but there was a moment in that first episode that was so cool. And I turned around to like look at Uda to give her like, are you kidding me? Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like this look. And
it was when the knife flew out and just got the person in the chest, right?
Yeah, that was a great moment.
Will, what's wrong? Why aren't you dancing? Oh
I
no!
remember it's been a couple months since I last watched the episode, but every time I see it, I know the moment. It may have been when the that's right. It was when the wine spring inn collapses and Lan jumps over Moraine and covers her up, and they do it all in slow motion. I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, And that was in my view, that was the best shot there of it.
Nice.
But yeah, we heard, a couple other stories, that, nothing earth shattering, but, afterwards there was a little cocktail party. And so we got to hang out on a couch and, see these people who had been so stressed and working so hard on the show, and they kind of were unable to unwind, and it was real nice. Uda was telling us that, in that first episode, there's that shot of Rand, and he's sitting up on the hill, with the fog all around him. He's looking out, across. He's sitting on a rock, like looking out across the two rivers. It's real beautiful. And they said that they waited all day to get that shot. They said that there was fog everywhere. There was no way they could get it. They were dead in the water. They were sitting there, or whatever. And then, instantly, the fog started to clear, and quick, grab it. And they had less than a minute, to go and get this. And so they sent Yosha,
awesome.
Plays Rand. They sent him out Yosha, go sit on the rock.
Now,
Yosha runs out there, gets on.
He was like, I have to pee.
They roll camera, and they get it. They get the shot, and the fog comes over and doesn't disappear for the rest of the day. So they had one take of that shot, and they nailed it on the one little tiny window. So that was a neat story to kind of hear, and little things like that. But that was cool. I wasn't able to talk about the time, because Prime Video is hush hush on so many things. I fully understand it, but that's not my job to understand why. But they had me hush hush for a long time on that. But that was kind of torture to be down there and not be going live on all of our social media, being like, look,
Yep. No, totally understandable.
Yeah, and then but for the other,
I'll tell you how that feels from the other side when we finally get invited to cool
we'll put in a good word for you.
Jason said cocktail party, and I know immediately why we didn't get invited.
Yeah. There you go.
Because it was an open bar, and they didn't want us
that
to.
Reputation already. Yeah. See, there you go. Guys, congratulations.
We've got Bezos's his black credit card, the top of the line, and we can't afford this.
We cannot afford to have the boys from the Black Tower here.
If we do this, we can't afford the Lord of the Rings show. It's just not.
Yeah.
Oh, if only.
Rings of Power will be like the little wooden bands of power if we have to go and pay for these.
They wouldn't be able to afford that slow motion shot of Galadriel running with
the horse
with their big smile.
Oh my god, that was so adorable.
Yeah, it was
I
adorable.
loved it.
That's one way to call it. I love the Rings of Power, and I'm genuinely I'm a fan. I watch it immediately when it comes out for me
Mhm.
Thursday nights, and I love it. It's great, and but there are some moments where I'm kind of like,
Of course.
I don't know if I would have kept that shot of her galloping like it's the first time on a horse. She's 2,000 years old or 10,000 years old or whatever she is, and
It's
first
been
time
a
on a
long
horse. So,
time, man.
it's been
It's
a
been
while.
years.
Yeah.
It's just
So
like
anyway,
riding a horse.
I've been up in the
riding a
frozen.
bike. What's a
Right.
bike?
I've been up in the
Don't
frozen
know.
north where we can't bring horses because they'd all die. I just want to ride a horse, man. Okay, speaking of which, this is a little bit of a tangent just for a moment. I know, crazy from the Black Tower. Andrew, have you actually seen The Rings of Power yet?
Nope.
Are you going to be watching it anytime soon?
Eventually, but luckily I'm an anime nerd, and I've read the internet blurb for Mystic Skies, so I'm okay with spoilers.
Okay, copy that. So, Josh, last week, I want to say, before I actually had caught up on The Rings of Power, you were talking about some moment in the show that drove you absolutely nuts. And I kind of want to hear what it is because I just watched the whole thing. And unless it's the horse thing,
No,
I
it's
did
not
not
the horse
have
thing.
any moment in the show where I just immediately went, ugh.
Let me shatter the glass for you then, because this scene.
Everybody listening or watching, Rings of Power TV show.
Rings of
spoilers.
Power,
Sorry,
mild
thank you.
spoilers.
And it's also a few weeks old because Josh actually almost brought this up last week, and I'm just behind enough that I didn't know, like I hadn't caught up. So this is actually at least a couple of weeks gone, but still, spoilers for the Rings of Power TV show.
So there's a scene where there's a dude standing on the corner. Elves are coming to take our jobs, and I'm like, okay, cool. Yes, I understand we have like one political speech in TVs and movies, and that's the one that we play over and over again. So, like, my head is already kind of like, eh. And then I can't remember his name, but the dude with the glorious hair and beard and scepter, he's like, indeed. I'm going to quell the mob. And he gets up and delivers this huge speech where he's like, don't you worry, I'll protect you from those elves. Here's what upset me about the scene. He's in the middle of a public square at the top of the steps, and then he just drinks for everyone. And all of a sudden, 20 people with drink trays full of drinks like come out of nowhere. Here, have some wine. Here, have some wine. And I'm like, all I can think is like in Numenor, like, so what do you do for a living? I'm a drink server. Oh, really? Do you guys do a lot of work? Oh, yeah. Like, what are you guys going to do? Well, we stand here with the drinks until someone at the top of the stairs says drinks for everyone. Does that happen a lot?
No.
I mean, like, it was such a clunky scene. Like, now, if it had been in a tavern and this guy was in a tavern, better setting, first off, like, because that's what people do in taverns. They get drunk and they get obnoxious and they get up and start riling the mob up and everything like that. And this guy could be in there being like, hey, calm down, everybody. Everything's fine. Drinks all around. Hey, it's a tavern. That's what you do in taverns. But in the middle of a city square, like it was weird to me. It was
Josh,
weird.
I will actually say, Josh, I disagree because I think that actually just shows you how good at his job this motherfucker is.
Yeah, you're gonna feel pretty silly when they come out with it behind the scenes deleted scene where you see him walk in the bar and say, hey guys, I'm going to be buying drinks for everyone.
Okay, I need you to guys load up another round.
Load up some rounds here.
For everyone? What do you mean when you mean everyone? I mean everyone in the city. Everyone. Just
no.
What's interesting is that
everyone on this island. Everyone on this one island.
These are the people in Numenor, but if that same scene had occurred in an elven city, and they all came out with, bearing glasses of wine or something like that, I would buy it. I would buy that the elves would have that ready and because that seems like an elven thing that they could deliver on. Like, I wouldn't be that tripped up about it, or hell, if it was a dwarven city, same thing. Like, they all come out with big, all these stouts.
Are you kidding me? He'd be up there with a staff. He'd be like,
Right,
exactly.
it's the only reason that he would be, listened to, is if he had
Does
beer in
the
hand,
elf yield?
yeah.
Love it. So now let me do this.
Anyway,
So
yeah.
we
We're
kind of
done
talked
with that.
around some things. A lot of fun. Loving it. Give me, and I believe, Andrew, if I'm mistaken, please correct me, but I believe you've read or have started reading the first Mystic book.
I have finished Mystic.
Okay.
I'm doing it on Amazon Kindle. I'm 11% according to Kindle through the second one.
Nice.
That's the joke about I've read the internet blurb for Mystic Skies, and thus I am slightly spoiled. Yeah, and I don't know. I wonder, should I treat the Nameless Saint the same way I treat Newspring and just pretend it doesn't exist? Are all prologues and prequels just conspiracies in any series?
So let me. You mentioned this earlier when you were introducing the books at the beginning of the podcast. So the Nameless Saint is not a book. It's not. It's a 1,500 word chapter. It's like a half-size chapter. It's just, and you can
novella-ette, if you will.
It's not even a short story. I mean, it would probably be about 4 or 5 pages in a printed book.
Okay.
And so it's a very short chapter. In fact, so anyone listening, you can get it for free if you go to my website, jasondenzel.com. And if you sign up for the newsletter, then you can get then it will direct you to a place where you can go and get it as a PDF download. So I wrote it initially to be the prologue to book 1. My editor came back, and probably rightly so, said, "Hey, this is great, but it doesn't really fit the book." And I thought about it, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" But as I thought about it, she was right at the time, and that it was detached from book 1, but for the series as a whole, it's a fantastic. It really does. It's like a prologue to the series rather than a prologue to book 1. It's kind of like yeah.
Is it a little like when one of the Forsaken shows up at somewhere and lets somebody know that they've killed their entire family when they turn into a volcano?
Maybe a little bit like that. So I mean,
I think I agree.
The Nameless Saint, has it's from the point of view of a historical figure who, in the first couple of books in the series, is she's a historical figure. Her name is Bridget, Saint Bridget, and so you hear about her in book 1 and 2, all 3 books. You hear about her a lot. She's a legendary figure from history, kind of like if you're Randy, you've heard stories about Lou Theron and the dragon and all these people, Arthur Hotwing. It's like having a prequel or a prologue that features Arthur Hawkwing. So it's just a brief chapter that gives, and what she's doing is that this saint, she's looking for her son. She comes to this mountain and she's seeking this nameless saint that lives in a cave in the mountain, and to ask her, how can I find my son who was stolen from me by these mystical forces? And so, and then later, she goes through that, and you have this little adventure with her learning what to do about her son. And then later in the book, if you actually get to the book, and you don't need to read that, but in the first opening chapter or 2 of Mystic, there, it's 900 years later or whatever, and the main character, Pamela, lives in this small, sleepy little town, not unlike a place like Emmonsfield, and they're having a spring rise festival. And then at this festival, they are celebrating the life of Saint Bridget. So they're celebrating her legend. There's characters that are dressed up in Saint Bridget cosplay. They're dressed up. They're dressed up in in costumes that feature. And if you have read you don't need to have read it, but if you read the prologue,
but it adds something. Yeah.
It adds a little something. And read the prologue, and you see Saint Bridget. She's got a bow, and that bow is named Dauntless. It's this magical artifact, and she's accompanied by a small handful of these lizard-like creatures that are called Lagharts. They're bipedal. They're people, but they're lizard people. And so she's accompanied by
just like our government. Okay, cool.
Right, exactly. Right, modeled after the U.S. political party. So, but then in the play, 900 years later, Dauntless is considered a sword, and they've got the number of the laggards wrong, and they've got some other details wrong, and so little things like that. Over as the story, as
like Toph being male.
Right, there you go. Over
like
time,
that's awesome. I like that.
Exactly, yes, and being big and buff and all that kind of stuff. So and as the series progresses, Saint Bridget and her story become more and more relevant to the later books, and in the third book it's especially important. I won't give anything away, but so it becomes a thing where that prologue, and if you finish the whole series and go back and look at that prologue, you can go, oh my god, I get it, I see it. And I'm real excited for that to finally
I see you, Jason Denzel.
Right, so that's something that I'm excited for people to experience when this third book, Mystic Skies, comes out. So nice. So the Nameless Fate, you can't ignore it. It's a short read. It doesn't ruin anything for you.
I'm not going.
The same, and you can read it really.
It's more of a
point.
New Spring joke, but
I see.
I mean, I will say, like, having
heard
finished...
a lot of people saying that New Spring is a book, and it predates the events of The Eye of the World. But I tell you what, somebody came up to me the other day, tears in his eyes, just crying in my face. He said, New Spring doesn't exist. I said, brother, you are correct. New Spring is just a hoax.
Okay, Andrew.
I might use those words, but
back to something of substance.
No, I think I agree with your editor, because having finished the first book and read it, and it's a good book. I really like it. So well done, Jason. Well done. I say as if I am some fantasy aficionado. I until today, honestly, I didn't know about the Nameless Saint. I didn't know about that prologue. And whenever I was looking up some stuff and like making sure that like I've got the names in the right order, doing the stuff that we should do to give the impression of being somewhat professional in this podcasting thing. I saw like another list and I was like, okay, maybe Jason's like already announced that he's working on another series and this is the name or something. And I clicked on it and I was like, it's the story of Brigid. I have to read it. And then it was like, I was like, oh, you can download it for free. And I'm like, okay, after I finish Mystic Dragon, then definitely it will be read. But no, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And it seems like some parts of the story of Brigid already resonates with the first book. This journey up a mountain for one reason or another that I don't want to. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, is it?
So
I kind of figured. I mean, it seemed to fit with the tradition, but
So Jason, like for everyone not initiated, for those who you are introduced, because the big Wheel of Time question is sum up the Wheel of Time in a sentence, and everybody goes,
good luck.
So give me the 5-minute pitch. Sell me on the Mystic series.
As those who are initiated, give us the elevator pitch for the Mystic series.
All right. Well, you said 5 minutes. I'm going to take all 5 minutes here.
Done.
So,
you're not on elevators the last 5 minutes very often?
It's a long elevator. I mean, there's a short elevator pitch or whatever, but I think every author hates giving those, and I get the value of it. Really, what Mystic was for me is I love stories that span a lot of time. I love the big epic things. I once wrote a short story that spanned billions of years or something, about this immortal creature, and I love these things that take time. And so I knew going into Mystic that I wanted to write something that felt like a generational saga, like something that took place. I didn't want just a story about a 16-year-old girl. What I wanted to set out to write is I wanted to write a story about a person's life. And in the first book, she's 16. The second one, she's in her 20s, and so on and so forth. And so really the initial kernel of the story was I wanted to take someone who was deeply entwined in this spiritual, maybe druid-like nature magic that was very inward focused, has a lot of ties to Eastern mysticism, real life Eastern mysticism. I wanted to, these ideas, non-duality and, seeking enlightenment and things like that. And which is a big thing that I studied for a long time and have a strong interest in even to today. And I wanted to take a lot of these ideas and explore that, but within a fantasy setting with magic. So the first book, Mystic, is about this young woman, Pamela, who she's a commoner. And in this world, there's a magical energy similar to like the Force. It's not defined, this is not a hard Robert Jordan, Brandon Sanderson magic system. It's a softer magic system, as sometimes the term is used. It's something that, it's driven by emotion. It's driven by willpower and experience, and life experience. And so this young person, Pamela, she is forbidden from using this magical force, which is called the mist. And only the nobility is allowed to use the mist in this world. It's a thing that they reserve for themselves and only train, their own children and such. And so more than anything else, Pamela wants to learn of the mist, but she's a commoner, and so she's not able to do that. But in the first book, she unexpectedly, she receives an invitation to go and train with the high mystic, with, the most powerful mystic in the land on this island of moss that she lives in. That's kind of modeled after like a fantasy version of Ireland. And so the high mystic has invited her. And so she defies law and tradition to go and try and become an apprentice to this high mystic. And the book covers, the book's about her trying to, got a little twist of like Hunger Games. She's in there with other potential candidates, and only one of them is going to become the apprentice. And so she's competing with them about that. And you're raising your hand. I see hand. Oh no, you're doing I saw you.
Sorry, you said Hunger Games.
You said
Yes.
Hunger Games. I see you raising your 3 fingers, and I'm like, "Do you have a question?"
No,
But no, I got it. Yeah.
Doing the Boy Scout pledge.
You can
Like, what's going on?
you can hear the ruse music playing, a little thing, the little bird call going. So so the first book covers essentially her journey as trying to become an apprentice, and I won't say what happens because I think it's unexpected, but but later books, I wanted to do like take a model of like apprentice, journeyman, and like a master. And so that's really kind of how the 3 books are phrased. It's not as direct as you might think, but it's more it's apprentice years and apprentice level magic. In the first book, to use like a D&D term that I've used before too, she's using like cantrips and level 1 spells and level 2 spells and whatnot. And and then the second one, Andrew, as you're probably already seeing at your 11% in the Mystic Dragon, which is the second book, that things are getting a little more intense. The world's a little bit darker, a little it's things are
I just got reintroduced to Sim, and I was like, huh? How?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Sim is one of the secondary characters, is from Pamela's village at the beginning, and he starts off kind of like a little lost puppy following Pamela. He wants to do right by her. They're best friends, and there's a little bit of a love interest there. But things evolve in a trajectory that I like to think is unexpected, like Robert Jordan once did with taking the Lord of the Rings and starting off in very familiar territory, starting with, Sleepy Village and Dark Riders and, bumpkin, kids from the village and everything, going off into a big scary world. He took those tropes and then went on a completely different direction with it by the time you hit the second book. And that's a little bit, that's what I wanted to do too. Mystic was my first novel, my first time book. So I intentionally kept it familiar and a little bit safe, in some ways, just initially, so that it would be familiar to people, so that it would be something that it's a very quick page turner and it's something you can just dive right into. But then as, as Pamela's life expanded, as my own experiences in life, went into upheaval at that time in my life, like I had a lot going on. And so, my world was on fire, Pamela's world becomes on fire. And so, it's like, everything is changing. And
the girl on fire.
There you go, man. I just can't shake the Hunger Games thing.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing, man.
I didn't even think of that one. Yeah. so and I'm introducing new characters and everything. And then the third one, of course, is that that's when, not spoiling anything, but it's the high level magic. This is where we're busting out the level 9 wizard spells, and bring out the big stuff. And that was a lot of fun to mess, to play with, and to finally do some really incredible things. And we've got dream walks and all sorts of things going on. So really, this is a generational saga. This is a story that spans the entire life of a person who is defying her society's laws and traditions and culture. She is, by making change herself, she is helping to change her society, hopefully positive, for the better. She certainly messes things up, and has to deal with those consequences, and in true Zen-like form has to accept it, and that's part of the big journey, especially in the third book, this new one, Mystic Skies, is her looking back and trying to understand, accept, and be good with the things that the mistakes that she's made, and the trouble she has caused by doing all this. So and there's lots of really cool magic, lots of cool action scenes, some romance stuff, and it's all in all, it was a long journey for me to write these books, especially, like I said, talking about earlier, with a full-time job and a million other things going on. So it took me
we
a while
don't know
to
what
get
that's like at all.
right. Exactly.
We do this for a living. Thanks, Bezos.
Yeah. And so, I know, but it's done. I've never been more excited about it. I think this is a great time that if you haven't read them, if you're listening to this in the month of September or October of 2022, you can get the first 2 books for $2.99 each on ebook. And so they're easy to get right now. They're all in audio as well. Mary Robin at Kowal, who is amazing, of course, amazing Hugo Award-winning science fiction and fantasy author. She reads the audiobooks, which is that's pretty.
So
I did that.
Just to give you guys an idea of how easy it is. Sorry, I was not prepared to say this at that exact moment. I literally just downloaded it.
Nice.
Literally just did. So I am putting
literally,
because I'm in the middle of the Master and Commander book series. I'm going to put that on hold. I'm going to set it aside, and it's not because it's painfully dull in some places.
We wouldn't know anything about a series that has some dull spots. How would we?
But
so
Jason, next time I talk to you, I will have book 1 done. That is a commitment I make to you.
It's going to be hilarious is whenever he hits you up tomorrow and is like, so how are the 3 books? How are they?
I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to hit him up tomorrow morning and be like, I couldn't stop.
The first book, it's a lot of times, Wheel of Time fans will come and they'll check it out, and that's wonderful. It's not, the series is a little bit different of a feel than a Robert Jordan book. It's not a big, giant, meaty tome. If you look at the whole series combined, it's about the size of a Wheel of Time book. Each one's about the third of the size of a Wheel of Time book. And I think collectively put together, they make for a really awesome epic fantasy. But the first one is intentionally so, is it's meant to it's very YA like. It's got a teen protagonist, and she's 16 years old, so she's dealing with things that a 16-year-old young person is going to be dealing with and concerned with, and clashes with her father, and and there's some young romance stuff, and first encounters with alcohol, things like that. But then later, that
was a great scene.
I can't wait. I was so excited.
Yeah, in later books, she's older, and and that it's reflected. And so I think this is most trilogies or a series, they are, when they're done right, they're greater than the sum of their parts. And I think that that's something that I set out for on day one. Like I knew that this series would be, each individual book was strong, and I'm very proud of all 3 of them. I think they succeed. I think that the 3 of them combined make something, even more incredible, that I'm really, really excited for people to finally be seeing here.
Excellent.
One of the things I'm getting just from your description right there is my brain went to Harry Potter. And I'll say this. I would let any kid read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Like, it's very young adult. It's very YA-esque. It's very simple. It's very small.
Very middle grade. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's also very engaging. And I think those are good quality. And so, and I know we got a lot of talk of, YA series with like The Wheel of Time, because in the books of how young our main characters are. And a lot of people, and Rafe himself, when he said he was adapting for the TV show, he did things purposely and aged the characters up so that the TV show did not feel like a YA type situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, I love the Harry Potter books. One of the reasons I love them is because you go from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
Your British is showing.
And when you're oh, I'm sorry. And when you get to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, that's not a YA book. It's not. And
dude, even when you get to book 5,
and that's what I was going to say. The first 2 or 3 books before that, you're kind of like, wow, this is kind of dark for a kid's tale.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and they really go from like the middle grade early books, and then you're right, about book 4 they become YA, like a true like YA. And you're right, the last one is it's dark, and that I think that's it being authentic to the characters and their ages. It would be silly it wouldn't be silly. I mean, other people have done it, but to match the intensity of the story and the themes that are being told, it had to age. And that's again what I was going for.
And one of the things that I also really appreciate is the journey with the author. I know that she is a little controversial right now, so we won't talk about JK. But Aragon with Christopher Paolini is also a really good example of a book series that you read the first one and you feel that this writer has a lot of talent, and you feel that there's a lot that can be there, but the book itself feels somewhat juvenile because they just don't have the experience of writing a ton of books. And then you get into the second book and the third book and the fourth book, and by Inheritance, which is the last one in the series, again, as you said, like you're reading, Mystic, the third in the Mystic series, the seventh in the Harry Potter book series, all of these different things where you've gone with the characters through their journey and you've gone with the author through their journey, and they're writing very differently than they did right from the start, both because the characters that they're writing for have changed, but also because they have changed in the process as well. And I really love series that do that, where it doesn't feel like the same book by the end, because the experience of the people living in the world, but also the person making the world, are so vastly different than what they were when they started.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. When I set out to write this series, I started writing Mystic in 2013. I finished it in 2014, probably 2015. So really, but I started writing it, coming up with the idea and writing it, in 2013. And at that point in my life, I was in a good place. I young family and everything was fine and dandy, and it was a very secure place. And you can read in that book, there's an innocence to it, especially Pamela. She's 16, and she's kind of shaking things up by leaving home, trying to become an apprentice, but there's still a overall security to it, much like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone. There's a little bit of innocence there, and there's still some sheltering. When I was writing Mystic Skies by that point, Mystic Dragon, the second book, I was going through a divorce. I had lost the job that I had for the previous 10, 15 years, so my dad died unexpectedly. So my life was on fire, and I knew this was going to be a dark book. And there were times where, just there's so much emotion that go into all of those things. And, I poured it into my keyboard, and into those pages. And yeah, when I went back to edit it, I had to kind of tone it down because I mean I went like really dark in some places.
Sure.
You know, it was a little too far. But you know, but I think that book is it sucks that I went through all those things, you know, for sure. I don't recommend it for anyone. But that those life experiences directly informed that book. I think that book is far more stronger from it. And then for this third book, for Mystic Skies, you know, there's a sense of coming to peace with, you know, trying to reconcile the mistakes and come to peace with, you know, the things that, you know, Pamela had done and trying to make sense of her life and everything that led up to that point. And that's kind of where I was at too. At this point, it was years later. Yeah, I was a lot more settled in, you know, all things in my life. I was in a new, healthy relationship. Things were settled with, you know, everything else. And I was in a new job and everything else, right? So like that informs that third book of trying to find that peace amidst the ashes of chaos that had come from before. And so in that sense, absolutely, like this book, you know, I still have trouble going back and reading, you know, both the first two books. I mean, I do have to, but when I go back and read them, I think, wow, like that was like 2013 Jason, and oh my god, that was meltdown Jason, you know. And so it's been a real journey to get through that, and I'm proud of that accomplishment of surviving it. I feel like that these books are a testament to surviving the last 7 years of my life.
I absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing that with us, Andrew. I'm going to ask you this right now, as someone who has Daniel. Have you read the first book as well, or no? Okay, Andrew, as someone who has begun this journey, and I'm asking you this for two reasons. One, because you've read the book, and two, because I know, you know, we've built the show on the platform of integrity, and we want to give like honest, like fully honest reviews and honest recommendations. What like hit me? What's good?
No,
I want to know.
I did thoroughly enjoy the book. I mean, I'm actually relatively furious with how busy I have been at work, because my goal was to have Mystic and Mystic Dragon finished before we recorded this tonight. And I've been stuck on 11% with Mystic Dragon since Sunday. Because work has just been nuts. But no, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, there were several nights I would lay down in bed and I would like do my usual, throw on something on the TV, and I would look up and I'd be like, you know, 12 episodes further in some anime or something, because I've been sitting there reading Mystic. I really enjoyed the book.
That's a strong endorsement. Sorry, not trying to cut you off.
You should put that on a cover.
You should.
I missed 12 episodes of anime.
Put it on the cover.
Andrew.
Well, because one of the things I immediately loved about it was one of the same things that made me. This might sound weird. I don't know. Hopefully, it's a compliment. One of the same things that brought me into reading Harry Potter, and that's where we start off with kind of the central character. Because there's so many books that starts off just like the Wheel of Time starts off, where they're in a very happy place. They're very content with where they are. Life is grand. And then something from the outside comes in and ruins everything, and they have to go out to take care of it. But that's not the case with Harry Potter. And it's not necessarily the case with Mystic. Things aren't terrible for Mello where she is, but they're also not that great either. Because, at least in the way I read it, because, yeah, I had some flashbacks to the person my dad used to be, reading Pamela and her dad. So anybody that's heard my rant on that before, slight spoilers for you, maybe.
Wow.
But you know, like you were talking earlier, there's a caste system in Mystic. You have your noble class, you have your commoners, and then you have a third class called the unclaimed, which is not unlike the untouchable caste class in India. So, you know, you're not at the top, you're not at the bottom. You're living a relatively stable life, but you have all these desires to go and learn this other stuff. Because, well, I'm having to choose my words because I don't want to spoil anything for these guys. Because it is great. But I like it when I really like getting into a series where the main character or one of the main characters, in reference to Wheel of Time, one of the main characters, doesn't start from a place where life is perfect and fantastic and they're perfectly content to stay there forever. The journey through it is really good. There's one thing that happened that you find out fully in the end,
right?
Yeah. Pat and Fane shows up on Moth.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, follows Pablo around.
Excellent. Yes, excellent.
There was one thing I was like, oh, okay, I see this coming because of how this particular character is acting. And then, Jason, you got me to a point where I was like, okay, I guess I was wrong. And I wasn't. And I was like, because I finally hit a point where I was like, okay, because I'm looking at how close I am to the end, and I'm like, yeah, there's still time, but they got to deal with this and this and this. I'm like, it's probably not. And then almost literally at the time, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, no, it's not what I thought it was. It is what I thought it. Well, not exactly what I thought it was, but it was close enough.
You should have listened to your instinct.
Yeah. But
that's on you.
That wasn't like.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But it was cool because for me, like, I always, I say I always, as if I didn't just finish reading Mystic last week. There were multiple surprising things, is how I'm going to say it, because I don't want to give a number to these guys. But Jason, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Towards the end.
Yeah, I have a suspicion. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
But no, I really enjoyed it. To the point where definitely starting Mystic Dragon, starting the second book, and seeing where we left off with Pamela and Mystic, and where we start off with Pamela and Mystic Dragon, and I'm like, okay, give me the details. Tell me what happened over the past. I think
what happened?
Bill,
about 7 years.
Give me the deets. What have we been up to since last book?
What's the tea?
Because I think if I remember correctly, with my post-work brain, it's about 7 years. Mystic Dragon starts about 7 years after Mystic ends, right? That sound about right?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything here too much, but there are time jumps, and I know that one of the things I love to do is I ask people, like, when they finish the first book, like, what do you expect is going to happen in the second, or when they finish the second, what do you think is going to happen in the third? And no one ever comes even close, to what they expect, and I like that, because I didn't want it to be a typical thing. And one of the things, people want to know about, like, what happened in those intervening years in between the books, and I reveal some of it. I hold, other things back, and that's all very intentional. And it's because, I want to write about the most interesting things in their lives, the most important things in their lives, and that isn't always what happens in between. Although, especially going from book 2 and 3, people want to know specifically what happened to, certain things and how they played out, and read and find out,
Did Jason just ruffle us? Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely something I enjoyed reading the whole way through. Got done, and I was like, all right, I can't wait to start the next one. Going into Mystic Dragon, and almost immediately I'm like, I don't need sleep, I need answers. So, I mean, I'm not just saying this because you're here. I'm not just, I'm not blowing smoke up your butt.
That is a strong endorsement.
But no, I'm really enjoying it. I'm trying to think if I had any critiques or any things that I was kind of like, I think the closest I had was thinking that I knew it was going to happen to a character and turning out to be, or with a character or with a situation, and turning out to be largely right. But whenever you're a fan of fantasy and you're a fan of anime and you see so many styles of things happen across so many mediums, and they always generally work out well for the series, as long as the rest of the series is good. There's a little bit of an element of it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this is more of a, like, if it ain't broke, modify it, make it cool, and then don't fix it. So
Yeah.
I like the way you did it.
I love throwing, twists, and I'm big on, like, seeding stuff early that has payoff later. And there's things that are seeded in the first book that pay off in the third, and things like that. Each of the books has at least one major twist in it, and so I'd love to see if you can put I'm guessing we'll give you credit for guessing book one. Let's see if you can get 2 and 3, because I think they get progressively tougher as they go, these
Nice.
twists. And so let me know. And yeah, Andrew, I would love to hear from you. After you finish the second book or the series, just let me know. I would love to hear what you think about it. But yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming down, Jason. We are both honored and humbled in a lot of ways to have been on your list for going ahead and talking about this series. Out on whatever you're calling, or actually doing some kind of press tour or anything like that. We're honored to have been any kind of stop, whatever that may look like, and always a pleasure just talking to you in general about your life, your writing, the Wheel of Time, Dragon Mount, random tangents that we go on, all of it. But yeah, so everybody listening, thank you very much, Jason. Thank you very much for being here and listening. Definitely go out and pick up Mystic. That is a huge endorsement from our Bijan Mahale here, that he couldn't put it down effectively. So definitely go out and check it out. I highly recommend going and doing that. I will be doing it myself, so you will be in good company. And yeah, let's get this show on the road here. Let's get Jason a few more sales and a few more fans, so that we can actually both talk happily and get annoyed at all of the things we don't like, because that's how you read books. That's what a good book reader does.
One thing before we wrap this up, we do this, Jason, do you have a passage that you'd like to impart upon the listeners?
Something to read from the book?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can find some way to prep me on this, guys.
Remember the part earlier where I said the illusion of being professional?
Which book you want something from?
Well,
Mystic would probably be the best one, just so that we don't get spoiled on anything later. But honestly, again, as long
Daniel
as
being
you
all wise, no,
are
I'm like,
proud,
give me the new.
You want the new?
Cool.
This is promo.
So,
this is
there you
promo.
go. That's fair.
Oh.
You make a good point, buddy.
Okay, if you want something from Mystic Skies, all right, I can do
Yes.
this.
And
What
you
is-
can take out your earbuds. That's okay.
What is the Golden Crane flies for Tarmangaiden moment?
No.
Where is that?
That might
passage?
spoil a bit much.
Yeah. Don't. No golden crane. Let's do Pot on Fane arrives to town. Okay. Let's not do golden crane.
Book 3 epilogue. Here we go.
Okay. Here we go.
No, I need I'm here. I know it's seen. I just got to find it here. It's
Wonderful. Yeah. Take a moment. And thank you for doing that. That's
my
very off
pleasure.
the cuff.
Yeah. And I thought I'd ask, and you are totally well within your rights to say no, obviously, but I mean, first time ever on the Black Tower, Mystic Skies from the amazing fantasy author Jason Denzel. You heard it here first. I'm happy right now. Also, while he's looking this up, and Jason cut me off when you got it. Also, while he's looking this up, everybody, if you want Jason to join us at the Gathering Madness, comment below. Leave a like. I'm selflessly self-promoting. But leave a comment below and say, Jason, come to the Gathering Madness. Leave a comment in our Discord and invite Jason.
I can commit to checking my calendar and seeing the feasibility of it. I will do
Wonderful.
that.
I
will tell you,
I'll
I'm
take
sure
it.
you've been here a couple of times. I can guarantee that either that weekend or the week after or the week before, there are plenty of bookstores in Los Angeles that would be happy to go ahead and have you come do book signings. So
We should.
We should Jason, I know you didn't know this when you wrote it. I'm trying to make sure I see it again to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. It's about your acknowledgments. Hold on. I might be blind. Stop. if Amazon could, if Kindle could cooperate with me, that would be great.
Also, I just want to throw out there, I really appreciate our Black Tower podcast cameo in Mystic Skies, where you have three guys who are just complete drunk
That was really
assholes
nice
to
of you,
Pomelo.
Jason. Thank you.
That was very
that
kind
was in
of
book
you.
one.
That-
There's three. No, actually, you know what? Tell you what. There's Andrew. You probably read the opening chapter of Mystic Dragon. There's a couple bandits there. You guys can be those bandits. So there you go.
Yes, I'll take it. I'll take it immediately.
I
No,
love
no
it.
cap.
no cap. Love it.
All right. Yeah. So
All right,
Andrew,
here we go.
you were finding something. I'm.
Oh,
queued
there
up
it
here,
is.
I
I
think.
did. So it's in your acknowledgement, the third paragraph. I know it's not me, but I will tell all of my friends it is me, even though it's definitely not, because my name is in your acknowledgements, first and last.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. The very first name in the third paragraph, after you acknowledge, your children, one of which also has an amazing
one
first
of which is
name.
named Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah. There is another Andrew after that, and it is an
With
Andrew
with
Wilson.
the same. Oh, he's in my writing group, and so there you go.
So
There you
Andrew
go.
Wilson, you have a fantastic name.
Yeah, he's a good
Nice.
writer. So
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
okay,
all
all right.
right.
So first and foremost, so I'm going to be reading here from chapter 6. This obviously has spoilers, so if you don't want the spoilers, go ahead and skip ahead. If you want a more thorough preview, the chapter 1 is online free for free on Tor.com. But if you just go to my website, jasondenzel.com, navigate over to Mystic Skies, you can't miss it. There's a link there where you can read chapter 1. So this is a little bit of preview. I haven't tested this. You guys are the first to hear this. I'll read it out loud. I don't know where a good stopping place is. I'll just kind of cut myself off at some point here, and
Okey-doke.
I won't take too much time. All right, so this is chapter 6, the halls of Indultruna. And the only reference that you need is that the characters in this are from the race of Lagharts. These are lizard-like people, as you will see. So if you're confused about them, soaking up the sun, that's what we're talking about here, okay?
Mm.
All right. The sun lifted above the horizon, bathing Hisrith, the Zurnta of Indultruna, supreme steward of Lavanoth, and the grand keeper of all that she has touched in life-giving light. His scales soaked in the warmth, raising his body temperature. Beside him, he felt the abundance of decorative ferns and vines swell with heat as well. He kept his eyes closed as he sunned himself upon the wide balcony overlooking the Scala River and surrounding forest, but extended his tongue to taste the morning. The high humidity, laced with spice, surged through his body as his tongue retracted, bringing the forest to him. Today's sunrise would reveal a good day. Last summer's eggs had begun to hatch and should continue to do so in earnest. At the same time, the youngest generation would molt and awaken to their sentience soon, bringing a close to the restful season of union, laying, and hatching. A rising joy filled him. Year by year, his people hatched new generations of Lagharts that were not born into indentured captivity. Never again would Kanta be seen dragging stone under the threat of a human whip, but never would they forget. He raised the mist all around him, letting it fill his senses as much as the sun. Always greet the sun and mist together, he remembered Aziz, his long-dead Zurnta, saying, for they both shine eternal and fill us with life. Hisrith lingered a moment, then opened his eyes and stood with the help of the Ismara, his mystic staff. The heat outlines of the sun and plants and other life filled his vision more quickly than the emergence of the visual light, but his slitted pupils adjusted quickly. He reached out his hand and opened his talons, palm upward. Hemo, he muttered, swirling the mist. The air quivered with energy, and moments later his familiar soared up the length of the massive Indultruna superstructure. Hemo Savannah burst into the air above him, flying upward, face first, with his great wings pulled tight to his body and long, multi-hued tail streaming behind. The Fey bird lifted into a graceful back loop, spread his wings, and swooped into a landing and onto the balcony. Hisrith held out his hand for the Fae to nuzzle. His shimmering plumage was as soft as silk. How strange, Hisrith thought, that once, before the merging of the worlds, it had taken great concentration to feel a Fae creature through physical contact for so long. Certain Fae previously had the ability to slip between worlds, but now, with Faerun and the so-called human realm merged, Hemo was present as himself. We ride tonight, he promised the bird, and turned away. Two round-peopled servants approached him from the distant edge of the balcony. They draped his naked body in purple and white robes, the same colors as their scales, as he entered the fortress. By the time he'd crossed the massive open archway that led from the balcony to his vaulted personal chambers, he was dressed and the servants retreated. Kumava waited for him inside, already dressed and holding her own staff. The pale blue of her robes matched the shade of her scales almost perfectly. Small, darker blue and black scales accented the outer edges of her eyes, down the spiked crown of her head. The coloring pattern was unusual, especially for a slit-pupiled like her. Her tongue tasted the air as she bowed. You taste aroused this morning, master, she said. Hisrith could hear and taste her amusement. It's a little late in the season for water bonding, however. We will stop there. So.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
there was a bigger spoiler in there than I intended. I forgot to mention that. So just ignore what you heard, Andrew.
At least that I had already inadvertently seen.
I'm loving everything I'm hearing right now. I'm super excited. I'm gonna listen.
Do you also taste aroused?
I very much taste aroused right now.
That's the first time that we've had I was excited to write a point of view from a Leichhardt character, and that's the first time. I hadn't done that in the first two books, so that was cool. There are definitely plenty of those characters in it, but first time with the point of view character, so that was fun to write.
Mark me down as scared and horny. No, that's awesome. Very nicely done.
And real quick, thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure. Well, I would definitely love to do this again if you'll have me. And for anyone,
we will definitely be doing it again.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And for anyone listening, thank you humbly for considering my books and for following Dragonmount and everything. For any information on these books, just my website has all the details. There's even there's not a lot of episodes, so I haven't promoted a whole lot, but I've got a couple behind the scenes podcast episodes that I'm doing just to kind of go chapter by chapter through my own books, kind of giving behind the scenes stuff. I've only got a couple up right now, so I'm not spreading it too much, but that's all on my website, jasondenzel.com. And as I said, if you're listening to this in September or October, the first two books are each just $2.99 on ebook. So they're a coffee gets you both of them, right? Large coffee gets you both. So
I
thank you very
much. Too. I got the audiobook tonight for $15. Guys,
okay, yeah.
It's fantastic. Like this is a great deal. Sorry, didn't mean to cut.
Awesome.
But if you are one of the fortunate few that have already finished Mystic and Mystic Dragon, again, set your sights. October 11th, Mystic Skies is available, I'm assuming, everywhere that Mystic and Mystic Dragon already are.
Print, audio, and ebook. Yep.
Excellent.
Sweet. Definitely go and check it out. There will be a link to Jason Denzel's site, and we will probably go ahead and hyperlink it to Mystic Skies, or at least also put a link to Mystic Skies there as well, so that if you've already finished and you're ahead of the curve, or ahead of me and ahead of some of the other curve,
you're ahead of
go straight into
Andrew's
Mystic Skies. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got plenty of them, boys.
So generous. So thank you very much for all the for having me on and for letting me speak to your amazing audience here. And yeah, I'm going to check out the LA thing coming up, and like I said,
October
16th, right? 14, 15, 16.
Well, it'll be 15 and 16 will be actual events. We will be there on the 14th. We'll check in. So if you want to come down on the 14th,
I'll be there.
We'll be having a little bit of a party on the 14th. That's just small get together in terms of us friends just sitting around drinking and enjoying each other's company, and then sort of actual events are happening 12:30 to midnight on both the 15th and 16th. So we're starting a little later in the day because screw getting up early, and then we'll go and actually, have a good time and do some things, and then we'll be done on Sunday night, and we'll all go home Monday morning.
All right.
So yeah.
But once you're all done going and making sure that you are following Dragon Mount and subscribe to the Dragon Mount and subscribe to the newsletter for Jason Denzel's website, and that you've already ordered Mystic and Mystic Dragon, and if you already have, order them again.
By order of the Mahales of the Black Tower.
And then get Mystic Skies. I feel confident saying you will not be disappointed, because I surely was not. So I think you all will enjoy it as well. Again, thank you so much, Jason, for reaching out to come on to this episode to do this. We love having you on. We love talking to you. And like we said earlier, you are welcome anytime. All the links that we can provide, well, not all the links we can provide, because there's a lot of links for Jason.
Yeah. The main
most
website will have
important
links there.
All of the ones that make sense.
All the ones that make sense right now, we will put down below.
We
as
won't
best we
send
can.
you his OnlyFans. That's for us.
Also, that's behind a paywall.
Yes.
But for all of us here at the Black Tower, again, Gathering Madness coming up here in a couple of weeks. Make sure you get your RSVP in. If you're going to submit a drink recipe to compete in the Watt Tales contest, please do so. Submissions for that cut off on the 10th of October. I believe that's what we put on there. And RSVPs.
And you know what? Sorry to cut you off, Andrew, but I'm doing this right now. I feel crazy. I feel affected by the taint. And you know what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen.
Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
The winner of the Watt Tales contest this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was
muted you. You gotta unmute.
Oh my god.
I could not
mute.
All right, Josh, go ahead.
Fine. No,
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna tell the people that they were gonna get a copy of the Origins of the Wheel of Time for winning the cocktails, but you didn't want the people to know that, so that'll be a surprise.
We also have
now
3
you can unmute me.
categories, so which one wins? Yeah,
That'll
see,
be for them
you
to
haven't
decide.
thought this through.
I never do. Welcome
know.
to Josh. Anyway,
Also,
sorry, Andrew.
I
go
do
ahead.
love that we can actually cut off the submissions for the Watt Tales on the 10th this year, because Los Angeles is a place where you can actually buy alcohol everywhere and in large quantities, rather than in Utah and North Carolina where it's crap.
Dude, it's for real. But anyway, sorry, Andrew.
Just gotta know where to go, my friend. North Carolina's the only
See-
place I've been to where I can buy a 32-ounce beer, sir.
See, but in LA, I don't need to know where to go. You just go anywhere.
Thank you
That's
all for
what I'm
being here.
saying.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for behaving yourselves in a proper
yourselves.
manner. Thank you so much for receiving your weekly dose of taint with professionalism. Jason Denzel from Dragon Mount, thank you so much. We are so honored to have you here as always. We sincerely look forward to having you again. This has been an absolutely amazing episode. If you've not read the Mystic series, what's wrong with you? Stop what you're doing right now and get the book that you need to get, which is either 1, 2, or 3. And be amazing with it. Go to dragonmount.com, go to jasondenzel.com. Do the thing. Do what you know in your heart is right. From all of us at the Black Tower, I have been your Soravan Mahale Josh.
I've been your Bajan Mahal Andrew.
And I have been your Amin Khan Mahale Daniel. And again, thank you as always. Thank you very much. We love you very much. We are so glad that you are here. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.